All right, Shalom. Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all of the praises and the glory to the Most High and His Son, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Avakar Kwadash, and double honor to the apostles of the great millstone, and as well as also giving the salutations thereof towards the Akim out there that's forwarding this truth throughout the four corners of the earth. Once again, it's the brother Laban coming at you with another video. And I'm saying shalom to the brothers and the sisters that support what we say, what we do, and heed out of the heart of sincerity. And we spoke about this at the camp yesterday, and I just want to re-go over this again and speaking about other things which is going to happen, which is what I believe. I firmly believe that now, which is what he's called himself, King Charles III. Recently, I think it was yesterday, actually no, 2 days ago on Saturday at 10 a.m. He ascended, and now he's the proclaimed king of this country. And you know, what I want to cover here is before I go any further, I want to cover what he said at the COP26 meeting. This is what he says. Your Excellence, ladies and gentlemen, the C-19 pandemic has shown us just how devastating a global cross-border threat can be. Climate change and biodiversity loss are no different. In fact, they pose an even greater existential threat to the extent that we have to put ourselves on what we might be called a warlike footing. Having myself had the opportunity of consulting many of you over these past 18 months, I know you all carry a heavy burden on your shoulders, and you do not need me to tell you. Excuse me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read from where I left off at. So it reads, they pose an even greater existential threat to the extent that we have to put ourselves on what might be called a warlike footing. Having myself had the opportunity of consulting there, this is where I was at. Many of you over these past 18 months, I know you all carry a heavy burden on your shoulders, and you do not need me to tell you that the eyes and hopes of the world are upon you to act with all dispatch and decisively, because time has quite literally run out. No, that's not it right there, Salakia. This is what I want to read here in 2 minutes and 40 seconds. This is what I want to read. We also know that countries, many of whom are burdened by growing levels of debt, simply cannot afford to go green. And here we need a vast military style campaign to marsh the strength of the global private sector. So this is what I want to really build on right here. Just how he started off with what he was saying in the beginning of the video, letting them know that, look, we're at a crisis. Okay. And we're going to have to take to this from a warlike perspective. So that's what he started off with right there, to those that are engaged with what he's saying, to put them in a certain state of mind of being ready to deal with this problem that we're facing. Right. And I mean, when you read all of this, you can see that he's speaking in code. He's not obviously opened. He's not going to be open to, those who are watching, like obviously regular people are going to be watching this video, and as well as those that are engaged as to what he's saying. You know, he's not going to speak all about what he really means and what they need to do. But if you know what the deal is, you can actually read between the lines and actually see exactly what he's talking about behind the code. All right. And the bottom line is as he started it off in the video, he said that, look, we don't really got that much time. OK, so that means that when he becomes king, which this was going to be the case anyway, probably, a year in advance, he was going to become, Yeah, a year in advance, because I believe this was aired out in 2021. Yeah, November 1st, 2021. So now we're in what, September the 10th. He's just ascended to being king, basically. But he still has to go through the inaugural process to be officially king. But he's proclaimed as of 2 days ago, that he's to be the king. All right. So when he steps in there with the mindset that he has already, as what he told all of these powers, all of these prime ministers that were there before him, that they gotta take this thing seriously, this climate change thing seriously. And we already know what that means, what he means by climate change. Okay. So now that he's ascended to being the king of this country after the queen's passing, this is why I firmly believe that he's going to be the guy to get the ball rolling and basically bringing in the complete end of this old world system in a very dramatic fashion, in a warlike fashion, should I say. And this is why I have to read Revelations 12:12. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them, and woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea. For the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he have but a short time. And what does he have a short time of? Their rulership. Because empires don't last forever and ever. Now, the only empire or the world which will be in the future to come, which will last forever and ever, is our kingdom. But this kingdom is not set up to last forever. The Lord gave Esau a portion of time to rule, and they know, based on the signs in heaven and other signs thereof, even that's down here on earth, they know that their time is about to be up. So they got to get moving quickly in setting up this new world system, which is what they call another term, the Great Reset. All right. So Charles is going to get the ball rolling, man. He's going to be that guy. And I remember there was a picture which I used to go back and forth to see. But I got the picture vividly in my mind right now. Let me see if I could type it in. This is the picture right here. So as you can see Evelyn Rothschild pointing at his chest. And I mean, this just goes to show you that he's not really the king. Like, think about it. If he's the king, if he's the actual king of England, a king is not treated like this. So just based on this image here, it shows you who the real king of the earth is. He's just a front king. But then you have a real king, which is in the secret world. And that's this guy over here. And as well as his family overall. They're the real guys out of the few families which are fortunate enough to control this world as we know it as. The powers that you don't see, they're the real powers that's controlling everything. All right. So anyway, as we already know, the power of the Rothschilds. As I've said, they're the real power. And being that he's pointing his finger at Charles like he's a child, just goes to show you that this dude here was definitely the choice of the Rothschilds to be where he's at today, so that he can play a particular role. That's just me obviously saying what I'm saying, assuming. But he has the point of the matter is that Charles is a very powerful man, and he knows that he's been chosen to do a particular job. All right. The Rothschilds have chosen this guy to be who he is so that he can do what he got to do to forwarding this new world system. And he's an important vessel of that. All right. And I did a little bit of research on this guy. This guy was born 6 months to the exact when afterwards of the the Israeli state was formulated. The Israeli state was formulated at around, I think it was the 14th of May of 44, and he was born in November the 14th of that same year. All right, because these powers, they deal with numerology as well as we do in this truth as well, but just on the left hand side as they do. All right, and even as well as even the death of the queen, that was all based on numerology as well. All right, which all relates back to 3 when you actually subtract the numbers to the number of the month and as well as to the day. So now what I want to do is I want to go backwards, and we're going to read this article over here, which was aired out around January 2019, and it was updated on 2020 May the 28th. So this reads, the brutal reality of martial law, how it works and what happens. And I just want to just get to the point. So this reads, what is martial law? Which most of us know what this is by now. Martial law is an extreme, but I'm going to just read this anyway, because some people may not really know exactly what it is. So anyway, it reads, martial law is an extreme rare measure used to control society during war, periods of civil unrest or chaos, and it is declared to enable a state to impose direct military control of civilians function usually run by government. Martial law is usually employed for a limited period and often in times of emergency, like a major disaster, invasions, or overthrow of a government. Often they are introduced after a coup d'etat or when a popular uprising threatens the established order. Martial law could be declared in the event of food and medical shortages following a no-deal Brexit causing unrest, civil disobedience, which didn't happen at all. Right? So under King Charles's rule, this could very well be a reality right here. All of this can happen for sure, you know, because as we do live in the times of inflation, basically it's just going to get worse, as they say, from October the 1st. That's what the former prime minister of this country said. He said something to the effect that in between October 1st and next year, people are going to be cold and starving, something to that equivalent, I remember he said. So all of that is going to basically provoke a lot of people down here in the UK to riot. And that's going to give the powers the right to declare martial law in the state of emergency. As we usually remind those that are watching our video of the technique such as the Hegelian dialectic. So they're going to use that technique, and the main objective is just to garner more power from the people. All right, which is what they're going to do. And so now what I want to also go into, martial law can only but be declared by the power of the crown, which currently you have King Charles III, which is now in that position. Not fully, because he hasn't gone through the inaugural process, but he's basically proclaimed that he's the king of the country. Okay, so by him, under international law 544, he can be able to do this. And they have the legislation, which is the Civil Contingency Act, martial law in the state of emergency. The Civil Contingency Act 2004 confers a power to make regulations if an emergency has occurred or is about to occur. In other words, a power to declare a state of emergency and make regulations to deal with it. The reason that is currently interesting is that the definition of emergency within the act may arise in the event that the UK leaves the EU without a deal. So what are the powers? Which that never happened anyway. It says emergency means an event or situation which threatens serious damages to human welfare or the environment in the UK, or war or terrorism which threatens serious damage to the security of the UK. An event or situation threatens damage to human welfare if it involves causes or may cause. whether it's loss of human life, human illness or injury, homelessness, damage to property, disruption of supply of money, food, water, energy, or fuel, disruption of a system of communication, disruption of facilities for transport, disruption of service relating to health. And the powers that are can create situations to bring all of this all put together. All right, because we know that obviously the power structure that we're under, which is spared by the Edomites, is a corrupt system, and they're capable of doing anything possible, as they've shown. So they can create situations to bring about all of this, and therefore activate this legislation right here, which is this is what is it, the Civil Contingency Act of 2004, which I believe is also in relation to the Blair's Act. Anyway, so it goes as far as to read: the conditions for making emergency regulations are somewhat vague with a wide discretion, and there are 3 conditions to satisfy. An emergency has occurred or is occurring or is about to occur. It is necessary to make provisions for the purpose of preventing, controlling, or mitigating an aspect or effect of an emergency. So I need not to read any more. So you get the gist, right? Because when a city is under a state of emergency or martial law, everything stops. Transportation stops. All of the ways of life or overall of the system stops. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go and read this right here, because I mentioned the international law, which is 544, says martial law originates either in the prerogative of the crown, as in Great Britain, or from the exigency of the occasion. Let me look up that word, exigency, right? Because I don't know what that word is, so we're gonna look this up. Right. So it just means an urgent need or demand. So there you have it right there. So I mean, if it's needed urgently, then they can declare martial law, pretty much. But usually, as I've just showed you, is based on the rule of the crown, pretty much. So there you go. That's all I want to read from there. So being that my man is in that position, and going all the way back to what he said at the COP meeting, telling all of these prime ministers that were there in front of him, saying that basically we don't have no time. We have little to time left to basically get the ball rolling and pretty much changing the way the economy works, in his words, or in my words as the one I'm saying. All right. So he made himself very clear on the 1st of November and of last year as to what all of those individuals are supposed to be doing. So when he becomes the king in a matter of months' time, then they know, okay, we got to be on the ready. I'm talking about all of these prime ministers worldwide, being that Britain is basically the power of this system. Okay. America is the influencer around the world, but Great Britain is the power of this system. And this is why it reads in the book of Revelations, the 13th chapter. Let me see if I can. Yeah, let's pull that up. Yeah, so it reads, I'm going to read the first couple of verses. So this reads this: and I stood upon the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his crowns 10 crowns, and upon his head the names of blasphemy, which is this system here. This beast that he's referencing to, this is referencing the revival version of the Roman Empire, which is what we're involved in today. Verse 2, and the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. Now, the leopard is representing when the Edomites first came into power as the Greeks. And the bear represents the Russians, because the Russians is basically they're going to be, or let me correct myself. Let's read this again. Revelations 13:2, Salakia. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, which represents the first empire that the Edomites ever had, which was the Greeks. And his feet were as the feet of a bear, representing the Russians, because the Russians, they're going to be the ones to finalize, to bring the system to a hold, to nothingness. They're going to be the ones to destroy the system, as prophesied when you read the book of Ezekiel, the 38th chapter, right along with their allies. And as this also goes for us to read, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion, and the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority, which represents the United Kingdom, England. The mouth of the lion, which the lion goes back to the Israelites that were in England, beginning with, as I know, the William the Conqueror. You know, his symbol was a lion. You had many other families among our people that were in England that used the image of the lion, and that became the emblem of old Britain, basically. And that's why on like certain rugby teams, I don't really watch too much of the rugby, but you know, you have rugby teams within the UK that actually have like obviously shirts and stuff like that with the lion emblem on it, which I'll show you in the on post production. Okay, so that's really because, especially down south in England, you had a lot of Judites there, and as well as you go up north, you had Benjamites. But Benjamin, and like when you look at the three tribes, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, that all encompasses the kingdom of Judah, because that's all you ever had in England at the time. So the prominent emblem for England was the lion. So there you go. So going back to what I was saying when I was reading this, England is basically the power behind this system. So whatever England says, that's what the world must follow, which will be by the behest of the king here, the so-called king, because you have the real king, which is especially within the West, the Rothschilds. They're the real kings behind the frontier king. He's nothing more than a frontier king, basically, but he still has a level of power, because there's different ranks within, obviously, the elites, as well as there's a ranking order within the righteous elites, which is what we have. But the real elites, the real power behind the people that you do see, are those fortunate families. Okay, so that's pretty much all I have to say from there. And I want to read Revelations 12:12 once again, to go back to the original point, because the point of the matter is that these devils are going to come down having great wrath, and then after that there's going to be a judgment. So let's read this. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. So why is it saying this? Why does it read this? Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in. This is referencing to the angels, and also this is referencing to the men of the Lord. All right, to rejoice, because through their wrath there lies our salvation, Jacob's trouble, and as well as Daniel's 12. The time is going to come since there was a nation, and even unto that same time shall there be deliverance. And as well as we know, after the wrath there lies judgment too. Woe unto the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he have but a short time. Just like what he said, in a cold kind of fashion. But those that were there, they knew what he was talking about. All of those prime ministers that were there, when he spoke in code the way he spoke, they understood the code. They understood what he was saying. Okay. And ultimately what he said is that we don't really have much of any time left to transition the world as it stands under the guise of climate change. So when he gets in there, sometime or another, he's going to be the one to get the ball rolling overall. So now that I'm done with that, I want to get to the book of Job 19 and verse 29. So this reads, "Be ye afraid of the sword, for wrath bringeth the punishment of the sword, that you may know there is a judgment." And that's what I said. When Esau comes with great wrath, and after that wrath is all said and done, there's going to be a great judgment. And what is the judgment going to be? Yahushua coming back and destroying this man. Okay? So these devils, they're going to put themselves in a snare. And eventually, what's going to happen? They're going to be punished after their wrath. So let's read Matthew 26 and verse 52. Then said Yahushua, let me read that again. I want to say it in a different way. Job 19 and 29. "Be ye afraid of the sword, for wrath bringeth the punishments of the sword, that you may know there is a judgment." And after the Lord pretty much puts the spirit upon Esau to come down having great wrath, guess what? The Lord is going to punish them eventually. After they come down having great wrath, the Lord is going to punish them. Okay? That you may know that there is a judgment, and the whole world is going to notice the judgment of the Lord with Esau. Because when the Lord makes a second return after the wrath is all said and done from Esau, the Lord is going to make a great example out of this man, just like how he made a great example out of those Canaanites in Sodom and Gomorrah. Now we're going to move forward in Matthew 26 and verse 52. And then said Yahushua unto him, "Put up again thy sword." And this is what he told Peter, right? "Put up again thy sword into his place, for all they that take the sword shall perish with the sword." Proverbs 14. "The house of the wicked shall be overthrown, but the tabernacle of the upright shall flourish." And what was Esau's blessing? The sword. So he's going to use the sword to his advantage for a particular portion of time, and then the punishments are going to come thereof, because of all of the sins which came with the sword. Now, it's nothing wrong with using the sword, because when the Lord comes back, he's going to use his form of the sword. But guess what? He's going to bring righteousness on the earth. That's the difference. Esau used the sword to flourish with iniquity. So that's the real reason why he's going to be punished, because of all of those sins that he has committed. All right. So that's pretty much the deal, man. The elect, the nation of Israel, are going to overcome the beast when the beast brings forth the wrath, and he is judged in that wrath, as it is written in the book of Job. Let me see if I can just finish it off with that precept there. Job 20, and I believe it's in verse exactly, verse 28. "The increase of his house shall depart, and his goods shall flow away in the day of his wrath." So in the day of their wrath that they're going to bring, and as well as the Lord is going to bring, they're going to lose everything. Let's end it off with verse 29. "This is the portion of a wicked man from the Most High, and the heritage appointed unto him by the Most High." So they're going to lose it all when it's all said and done. So that's pretty much all I have to say for this. And it's all going to begin with Prince Charles. Actually, no longer Prince Charles, but King Charles now. So with that, I close and I say Shalom.